So thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I'm Raluca Kovac. I'm Quality Manager for Mental Health Crisis Breathing Space, and I'll try to walk you through today through the debt advice process and other wider support that we offer clients who enter the Mental Health Crisis Breathing Space session. As you can see on your screens, my colleagues have disabled your mics and cameras. However, if you have any questions during my presentation, please put them in the chat, and at the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session, hopefully being able to answer all your questions. So one important question is who can access free debt advice, and what is this comprised of? So individuals protected under the Mental Health Crisis Breathing Space scheme can access free FCA-regulated debt advice from our partner organization, Toynbee Hall. This is a debt advice charity based in London, but they offer England-wide support over the telephone on this contract. This ensures that when their crisis treatment ends, the problem that is also dealt with, and the vicious circle of poor mental health and debt is broken. Once clients are feeling ready to deal with their indebtedness, we have a team of trained debt advisors who provide the debt advice to clients entering mental health crisis breathing space. They can address emergencies, so things like eviction or bailiff action, ineligible debts for the scheme, so debts that are not protected under the debt respite regulations, such as magistrates' court fines or child maintenance arrears or student loans. And we also offer full debt advice casework. So this means providing full advice and then assisting the clients to implement their chosen option. An important aspect of the contract that we deliver on behalf of the Money and Pension Service is when can clients access debt advice from our service. So to qualify for free debt advice from our service, the client has to be in a mental health crisis breathing space. Once their breathing space has ended, they will be directed to other free debt advice providers, and we will share this link with you because it is really useful. On the Money Helper website, there's a debt advice locator tool where you can enter the client's address and their preferred channel of delivery for debt advice, and it will find all the free debt advice agencies in that area. So what is a debt advice session? It is a consultation between an advisor and a person experiencing financial difficulties. It is divided in several different steps, but some of them occur simultaneously. So initially, it starts with exploring the debt problem. So the professional debt advisor will gather key information about the client's personal details, all the debts that they owe, their income and essential expenditure, and any recent or ongoing financial events. Once they do that, they will try to identify and handle all of the urgent issues, because some problems need immediate attention, like bailiffs or enforcement threats, court deadlines, risk of losing essential services, or the client's ability to pay for food or housing. Once they've looked at these details, the advisor will help the client list all the creditors and amounts owed. So this is done through documents that the clients bring for the appointment and through checking the credit reference files. Then checks will be done to see what actions have been taken by debt collector agencies, identify any threats, and see if there are any legitimate ways to reduce or stop certain costs. A very important part of the debt advice session is completing an income and expenditure or a budget to see exactly what is the client's financial situation. To build a clear budget means to list all the client's income. This can be comprised of wages, benefits, or any other contributions from household members. It also includes the necessary living costs. Obviously, each of us have them to pay for housing, food, essential bills, childcare, travel, etc. And identify opportunities to maximize the client's income. This could be through benefits that they're not claiming or enhancing the benefits that they're claiming at that point. As I've said, the financial statement is the cornerstone for the debt advice session. From the income and expenditure information, the advisor prepares the standard financial statement, which is a form that's accepted by most creditors. It shows income versus essential outgoings, and it also indicates if there's anything left that could be offered to pay creditors. So if there's a surplus in the budget or a deficit. Debts are classified in priority and non-priority debts. So the advisor will help the clients identify whether their debts are priority, such as rent or mortgage, council tax, or utility bills, because priority debts can have serious consequences if unpaid, or non-priority debts, such as credit cards or personal loans. So once all this information is gathered, both personal and financial, and the financial statement is prepared, the advisor can discuss with the client the possible strategies, so the available options to deal with their indebtedness. Depending on their situation and what they want, these might include repayment plans, negotiating reduced payments with creditors, or formal solutions, such as insolvency solutions, IVA, debt relief orders, or even bankruptcy. The debt advisor will explain the pros and cons of each of the available options. And then together, they will agree what the next steps are, and the client can choose the plan and the option that they want to follow. Based on that, the debt advisor will contact creditors, will set up repayment arrangements if that's what's been chosen, or refer the clients to specialist services. And then at the end of the session, all the information will be provided in writing to the client, along with a draft standard financial statement for the client to check and see if everything has been recorded accurately. How can you help us when you refer a client into mental health crisis breathing space from a debt advice perspective? There are certain information about certain creditors that we cannot find in the credit reference report. So if clients have rent arrears, it is really useful for you to include the name and address of the landlord, the balance of rent arrears, and the stage of enforcement, if known, in Section 4 of the HMT form, and similar information for council tax arrears, because these are not recorded, as I said, in the credit reference report. Another way in which you who are involved in client care can help, and we will provide a checklist after the webinar, is preparing the client for the debt advice appointment. So having that conversation with them about what it means and what sort of information they should gather. It's usually documents pertaining to income and expenditure as well as debt. So if they have letters from creditors, default notices, court papers, and account numbers, those are all extremely useful. Similarly with proof of income. So recent wage slips, benefit award letters, universal credit statements, pension statements, and obviously bank statements, because those cover both income and expenditure. It is extremely useful for them to have a pretty good idea of how much they have to pay for rent or mortgage, council tax, travel, so all those essential household expenses. What sort of housing situation they have, so what sort of tenancy agreement, mortgage details, if they have assets such as a vehicle or savings, and then not lastly, because this is quite important and urgent, if they have anything such as an eviction notice, they're in repossession proceedings, they have court dates, bailiff visits, any sort of deductions from their wages. At We Are Group, we also have other contracts that we deliver, and there is wider support available for clients. One is through our HM Courts and Tribunal Service contract. We offer digital support, assisting people who lack digital skills in accessing and completing online forms when appealing. So we can assist them with benefit decisions, online civil money claim, help with fees, probate, and more. And you've got the telephone number and the email address. We provide energy advice, but only to residents in London through UK Power Networks contract. It is a free advice service that provides practical advice to help these clients manage their energy and water bills. And an appointment can be booked via the telephone number on the screen or by visiting wearegroup.com/energy advice. And through our home office contract, Assisted Digital, we provide support to people who lack the confidence to complete visa, e-visa, or EU settlement scheme applications. And we provide this service online or in person. And again, the contact details are here. On our website, we also have help articles on mental health crisis breathing space. So if you visit our content library, it's on mhcbs.co.uk/resources, and all the webinars that we held previously, all the webinar recordings are there. And quickly, before I finish the presentation, I just want to make you aware that our next webinar is on Friday, the 10th of April, and it will be presented by my colleague Amrin Carey. She's an approved mental health professional. And I think it's time for Q&A. Amir, unfortunately, couldn't be present today, but Rebecca's here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Raluca. We do have a good 15 minutes or so for the Q&A section. So I have noted down all of your questions that you've been kindly putting in the chat for us today. So we do have plenty of time to get through them. I think the first things first, heading back to you, Raluca, then, we do have a really interesting question about business debts. So this person's asked, if a client in the MHCBS has business debts, would they be signposted or referred to business debt line, or would they be able to seek support through MHCBS?
Yeah, we've seen, thank you for the question. It's a really, really good one, because we see a lot of clients who have business debts. Unfortunately, the only organization who deals with business debts is with Business Debt Line. So our debt advisors are not trained to complete business financial statements. So we can offer support up to a point, especially if those debts carry also a personal liability, but to deal with the overall situation, we will have to signpost them to business deadline.
Perfect, thank you. We've also got a similar question talking about different types of debts from Sophie. So she's asked if a person takes out loans or credit cards whilst unwell just prior to being detained under the Mental Health Act, is there anything that the debt advisors can do?
Yes, so first and foremost, with these clients who are in mental health crisis breathing space, all the arrears on eligible debts accrued prior to entering the scheme are protected. So no enforcement can be taken as long as the clients receive crisis treatment, plus those extra 30 days after the crisis treatment ends. But yeah, it is, because I've seen a couple of questions there, it is a complex situation in which these clients are, but some of them feel ready to receive that advice. So that's when a dedicated debt advisor can assess their whole personal and financial situation and help them to deal with their indebtedness. There's no fit for all solution, so it has to be personalized based on their personal circumstances, their financial circumstances, but also on what they want to achieve, because there will be people who will probably qualify for a debt relief order, which would clear all their debts, but they don't want that solution because they want to try and repay their creditors. So it's taking into account all of this. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Raluca. Rebecca, we have an interesting question from Sian, who I think you'd be able to answer her question. So she said that she's applied to breathing space or mental health crisis breathing space. Her issue is that the referral needs a contact person to offer information about the person's mental health and if they're in hospital. They have been reluctant to complete this role. So what does she do in those situations?
Yeah, it's a challenge that we hear quite a lot when we're talking to various different AMPs and MPOCs. Underneath the regulations, there are only very limited roles that are available to hold the role of an MPOC, so an AMP, a care coordinator, or a mental health nurse. So it's really about talking to those individuals to explain the responsibilities. They get an email every 20 to 30 days to confirm whether or not the individual is still receiving that crisis treatment. If you are talking to those individuals, it's certainly worth reminding them that it is a statutory scheme. It is in the best interests of the individual. So underneath their care plans, it would be something that we should be pushing with those individuals. And yes, it is difficult to find individuals who hold those roles in certain circumstances. What you might find is that the way to have the conversation with those individuals is to say, look, you're going to be the one that's contacted. I'm dealing with the individual on a day-to-day basis. When you get the nod to say, is the person still receiving treatment? Contact me and I'll give you an update. So you're kind of saying that that person would be a go-between between the service and yourselves delivering the day-to-day care. I know that some trusts have kind of set up that way because there is no individual that's dealing with the day-to-day care of the individual. So hopefully that might give you an idea in terms of how to approach that.
Thank you, Rebecca. We've also got a question again from Sophie. She's asking, what is the difference between We Are Group and Toynbee Hall? So maybe you can answer that one as well, Rebecca.
Yeah, absolutely. So We Are Group are essentially what Money and Pension Services, they've commissioned us to deliver. Because the service involves debt advice and is around finance, it has to be provided by a regulated and approved organisation through the Financial Conduct Authority. Currently, at this point, We Are Group don't hold that approval, which is why we partnered with Toynbee Hall, who are regulated and approved through the Financial Conduct Authority and have been working with finance and financial debt advice for hundreds of years.
Perfect. Thanks, Rebecca. Going back to you then, Raluca, we've got an interesting question as well. And this person's asked that if the client is too unwell to engage with the debt advice, so long as the MHC application has been accepted, would the protections to the scheme be activated just as normal?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, the debt respite scheme covers two types of moratorium. So we have the standard breathing space that offers 60-day protection for people who don't have to experience any sort of mental health crisis, but they do have to engage with that advice. And the other scheme, obviously, is mental health crisis breathing space, where clients are experiencing crisis mental health treatment, and there's no need to engage with that advice. So this is optional, but it is recommended that once they approach kind of the end of their crisis treatment and they feel better and ready to engage with that advice, to do so, because the scheme just poses enforcement. It doesn't deal with the debts per se. But yeah, to answer the question shortly, the protections apply irrespective of them engaging with the service. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've also got a question from Nikki. So they've given a bit of a scenario. So they've asked, would the service be appropriate for a person who is facing a significant financial change, but with no current debt, but that it may be likely to occur? So the scenario they've given is that this person has been totally dependent on a partner. They have no income of their own. The partner is left, and they obviously won't be able to manage themselves finally, which could lead to a significant decline in mental health and debt. Could you perhaps shed some light on this?
Unfortunately not. So to be eligible for the mental health crisis breathing space scheme, they have to have at least one eligible debt at the point of entry. So,
but it's worth, I was going to say, it's worth signposting them. So that link absolutely. That Raluca talked about earlier in terms of the find a local debt advisor, absolutely work with the individual to find a local debt advisor and support them through that. There are free debt advisors out there who will tackle it. They don't have to be part of the scheme to get debt advice.
Yeah, and they would definitely benefit from some budgeting advice if, yeah, they haven't manage their income and expenditure up to that point. So yeah, there is support available, just not through this scheme.
Hey, great, thank you. We've also had a question from Margot. If Rebecca potentially you'd like to answer this one. So she said she's had 2 people on the MHCBS for over a year and they haven't had an appointment. So how does she go about requesting this?
Absolutely. So all you need to do is drop us a quick email at support@mhcbs.co.uk. Just let us know that the clients need to engage, and then we will be in touch to get those appointments arranged.
Brilliant. And then sticking with you as well, Rebecca, I think you can answer this question for James. So he's asked, can the nominated point of contact be transferred, for example, to inpatient community?
So yes, so absolutely. We understand that the individuals potentially may well be first treated in hospital environment and then move into the community. As long as their treatment is still considered to be crisis treatment, rather than your long-term mental health plan, then they can be transferred. And even if you're not moving from one area to another, we quite often have the MPOC role changing. All we would ask is that you send us an email through to notify us that it's changing from one MPOC to another, and provide their contact details so that we can get in touch and just verify the new person is a suitable individual.
Brilliant. And then I think just to end on as well, because we've still got one question remaining from Sophie, and I think Raluca, you can answer this one. So Sophie's asked, once the mental health crisis is over, if the person still lacks mental capacity to manage their finances and has an LPA in place, do we support the LPA to manage the debt situation?
Well, it is a bit of a complicated question because it depends where we're at in the debt advice process. And this is because of the way our contract is written. So we can only offer support to people who are in mental health crisis breathing space. If we have started engaging with them and we are in that process, we will help them and obviously work with any authorized third parties. But so it depends on the timing. If we haven't engaged with them while they're in mental health crisis breathing space, the breathing space ends, and that's when the request for debt advice comes. Unfortunately, we won't be able to help them under this contract. But as long as they qualify for debt advice with us, we will work with them and with any authorized third parties. So the debt advisors are used to having a third person during their appointments. So it's either a social worker or a representative that they have named, like their partner or parent. So it is quite common to have someone there acting on the client's behalf. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Raluca. Thank you all so much for your questions. We do only have a couple of minutes remaining, so I doubt enough time to get through some of the quite complicated ones. As Raluca has said, we do have a really comprehensive content library on our website. So we have done several webinars before, and your question may well have been answered in one of those. So please do head to the content library. I have put the link to our website just in the chat, so you will be able to find the content library there. We also have a webinar coming up in April, and that will be hosted by Amrin Kerry, who is an approved mental health professional. So she will be on hand during that webinar to answer any AMP or NPOC related questions if you don't find the answer in the content library. But as always, our email addresses are open to any further questions, so please do email us at support@mhcbs.co.uk, and we'll be more than happy to help you serve your patients in the best way possible. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Raluca, for the presentation, and please do get in touch if you need any more questions answering.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend when it comes.